السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اليوم نشوف فيلم رعب. نشوف هذا 3 دقايق، اسمه أتيك بانيك شورت هو فيلم نفس هاي المرة. اوكي، حلو. نشوف هذا. شو المراعي تمثل هذا يا افلام رعب؟ أكثرية إنجليزيات.
So this is me crawling around in my underpants with black paint on my arms. But let's back up a bit. The other day, Lotte and I were sitting in our living room when I realized that we have an old chest or coffer. So I said to Lotte, maybe that could be a movie. And now it is. So here's a quick look behind the scenes of Coffer. The area of our apartment where the coffer is pretty dark, so to light it, the first thing I tried was to take one of these IKEA paper lanterns, stick 4 IKEA halogen bulbs in one of these adapters from eBay, and put it up in the ceiling, and I got this. But this is pretty flat and boring, so I took down the paper lantern and instead replaced the bulb in this light with the biggest bulb I could fit in there, which in this case was a 150 watt. And I got this. Now the right side of the frame is way too dark, but this is, I think, much closer to a look suitable for a horror film. That's something that I keep having to remind myself. Simple is almost always better. In the bedroom of Lights Out, I was at first taping lights to the wall and trying different things, but in the end what I found worked best was to just put the strongest bulb I could find into the bedside light. Simple and just a moody look I was after. So my strategy for this film was to use pretty strong bulbs in the fixtures that were already there, and then just lighten up certain areas with the paper lantern. So I used an IKEA dimmer to be able to adjust the strength of the light. So for example, in this shot, I hung the light just above Lotta's face and kept it pretty weak just to raise the exposure on the face a little bit. There are a few visual effects shots in this film. The first one is the coffer opening by itself, which was just a simple animated mask. We shot Lotta opening the coffer with a shoehorn, and then one shot without her and the coffer closed, and one without her and the coffer opened, and put it all together. The second is walking up to the bottomless coffer, and here I once again turned to Blender. I did a camera track and modeled an extension to the coffer. I took some photos of the coffer to use for textures and tried to place virtual lights in roughly the same place as the actual lights. I then rendered out the last frame of the sequence where you see the most of the inside of the coffer, and it looked like this. Pretty terrible. But with some color correction and retouching, I got this. And this image I then reprojected onto the 3D geometry as a new texture. Now I could delete the lights of the 3D scene because the shadows and light are now baked into the texture, and it's a quicker render as well. When we see the marble fall down into the darkness, it's a 3D sphere made to look like the marble. Since there's a lot of motion blur, I didn't have to get it to look exactly like the real marble. This view of the coffer is just a still image, and to hide that fact, I added some grain, but I also took the reverse angle of Lotta, flipped it around, repositioned it, made it black and white and blurry, and then faintly laid it on top of the still frame to get some movements of shadow in the still image, all to try and make it less obvious that it's a still image. When my hand grabs Lotta, we had to move the coffer out of the way, but I cut out the lid from the previous shot and put it in here so that it looks like she's still by the coffer. This shot is 3 shots put together. First we shot the coffer closing. Then we shot my hand coming out. And then to try and sell the idea that Lotta disappears down into the coffer, I wanted us to get a glimpse of her feet disappearing into it. So Lotta patted out her socks, and then we dropped them into the coffer. So there's a quick glimpse of a pair of feet going into the coffer. For the very last shot of the monster, I don't know how to do makeup, and I'm not all that good with 3D graphics either, but since it's a pitch black creature, I figured you don't have to see a lot of detail. So first I rendered out a view inside the coffer as the lid is opening up and letting light inside. Then I painted my arms black with just regular poster paint, so it was pretty easy to wash off, and I filmed myself crawling around on the floor. I cut myself out and filled in some areas with black, and then for the head I made a head shape in Blender and animated that. I didn't create any ears or a nose because I figured it might be spookier to have this otherworldly creature without any of those features, or I'm just trying to rationalize my laziness. Anyway, that was a quick behind the scenes of Coffer. Hope you enjoyed.
جاي عادية. اوكي، اليوم شفنا فيلمين رعب، ان شاء الله افلام الرعب القادمة اشوفها الايام الجاية. مع السلامة. لا تنسون تشتركون بالقناة، هو دائما افلام الرعب تمثل بي هاي المرة، بس المرة من مثلوا فيلم مال رجل الظل، خوش فيلم، وفيلم أطفاء الأنوار هم حلو. هذني فوق أعتقد أفلام. وهذا همنا فيلم، هذا فيلم وجه الدمى، هذا فيلم لا تنظر إلي. لأن أكثرية أفلام رعب حلوة. مع السلامة، اشتركوا في القناة وفعلوا جرس تنبيهات. مع السلامة، انطونا لايك.